You will all have your version of your VUCA story. And that's what leaders are trying to deliver through. You're trying to lead your people through those kind of challenges and changes. New skills, new ways of doing things, working in different ways. You're looking for more innovation, more agility, more collaboration, more productivity. These are really, really big asks, particularly when trust in leadership is at the lowest point ever. Only 32% of people trust leaders globally. We're asking them to take a leap of faith when trust is low. We're asking them to do so much that is scary and difficult. And so those old command and control approaches just don't work anymore. The old HR manual that I was brought up on doesn't work anymore. We have to think differently. And what I want to offer you is a new way of thinking about leadership. A new model for how you might lead, engage, and develop your people to enable this productivity, agility, collaboration that's so desperately needed. And the model I want to share with you is called the EACH model. And that stands for employees as adults, consumers, and human beings. And I want to touch on each of those areas, and I want to share with you some practical things that is already happening with progressive organizations. And perhaps some tips and tools that you can take away with you. So let's start with adult. And I want to start with a couple of stories to illustrate the point that currently the vast majority of our relationships with our people are incredibly parental. They're not an adult-to-adult relationship. They're very much about mum and dad. Let's start with the mum, and forgive the gender stereotyping here. So the mum employer, we look after our people, we indulge them, we want to take care of them. And the anecdote I want to share with you relates back to the BBC. Imagine the scene, it's snowing heavily, it's about 4 o'clock, and one of my team comes to me and says, it's time to write the all-staff email. And I said, what all-staff email is this? And they say, oh, well, when it's snowing, we write to our staff and tell them they should think about going home. And I thought, this is interesting. What, they can't look out the window? What happens if we don't write the email? Do they just sit there whilst the snow piles higher and higher? What about those people who don't get the email? There are some people who should have left ages ago because they live miles out, and some people only live around the corner and could probably stay. They could use their judgment. But the idea was that we needed to help our people, protect them and look after them. It comes from a good place, but it's infantilizing. The other anecdote is more the dad, the critical dad. So last night, I finally got to my hotel about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I went to the wardrobe, and there was the anti-theft coat hanger. Bear with me on this one. Someone somewhere has stolen some coat hangers from a hotel. And so the hotel industry have clubbed together and come up with this brilliant idea that to stop people stealing coat hangers, what they will do is create an anti-theft coat hanger, which means that the 99.999% of people who have no intention of stealing a coat hanger can't get their clothes on the bloody wardrobe. That's our approach to policy development. It's this idea that we don't trust. So someone does something wrong, we create a rule or a policy that stops anyone ever doing anything bad again. The downside of this is that we create a culture that is parent-child. And what that leads to is passivity, compliance, but it doesn't drive the level of challenge, of questioning, of innovation, of risk-taking that we desperately need. And finally, human. So the EACH model, employees as adults, consumers, and human beings. Now, if you were an HR audience, I would be talking to you about how the vast majority of HR processes are not based on any understanding of how human beings actually think, feel, are intrinsically motivated, and communicate with each other. I would be telling you to abandon your annual appraisal because not only are they completely painful, they're also a complete waste of time. But you're not an HR audience, so I'm not going to do that with you. I want to focus on human leaders. We get so excited about leadership, and we have leadership competency models and leadership frameworks and leadership development programs. The best leaders who lead through change are really great human beings. And I believe that there is one single thing that we need to enable us to lead effectively in a disrupted world. It is humility. The best leaders I've worked with at the BBC and in previous organizations, and the leaders I work with now, the ones who can say, "I'm sorry, I got that wrong. I don't know, what do you think?" Who can show vulnerability, who can admit that they're fallible. Those are the leaders who can regain that trust that is so lacking and is so desperately needed in this disrupted world. After the Savile crisis, we did a big piece of work with our people at the BBC, looking at issues of leadership. And we asked the question, who are the leaders that you do your best work for? Who are the leaders that inspire you? Who are the leaders you enjoy working with? And these 50 names came up, and we said, and what is it that they do? And they said, they know my name, their doors open, they remembered my dog was ill, and they asked about it. They say thank you for a job well done. They say, I'm sorry, I think I might have got that wrong. Human stuff. We have a massive opportunity with disruption. Of course, it can be threatening and scary, but for those people who get it, it gives us massive opportunities. These new business models, this pace of change. But only if we fundamentally rethink our approach to how we lead, manage, and engage our people. And at the heart of that is human. Thank you.